low tuition fees, quality education, traveling around Europe, opportunities to learn French, scholarship opportunities. We all heard about these claims when it comes to studying in France, but what about the negative sides? What about the negative sides to coming to France to study? Well, we're here to discuss all of that. On this channel, we already talked about the pros and cons of studying in France, how to get admitted to a French university, how much living in France costs, but in this video, I'm here to talk about the negative sides of studying in France that you might want to consider if you're actually thinking about coming to France to study. Without any further ado, let's get to the point. First negative point, the language barrier. So we all know that France isn't exactly an English-friendly country, and the majority of French people still don't really speak English, and even those who do are not exactly fluent in it. Therefore, everything from getting around, asking for directions, to even just simply buying a baguette can become a huge struggle if you don't speak French at all. Now let's talk education. Even though there is a decent amount of English programs available now in French universities and schools, to be honest, in order to find a bigger diversity, you must likely still have to go and look for them in private institutions, which can only mean one thing: higher tuition fees. And if you guys want to know more about private and public institutions in France, I do have a video about it on my channel. Click here to check it out after this video. However, don't lose hope just yet, because there are actually many ways to afford your education, from getting a scholarship to doing an apprenticeship through which your company basically sponsors your education. So if you want to learn more about how to get into your ideal business school or university in France and find the best suited program for you, I have to talk about Ed Astra Admissions, who is the sponsor for this video. So Ed Astra Admissions is an online platform that helps international students choose the right school and get admitted. To do this, they have different tools such as a free admission guide, a free profile evaluation tool to help you better understand your admission chances to French business schools with personalized recommendations, an online course, as well as full admission coaching with a team of mentors that will help you get into your dream university in France or in many other European countries. I actually met Anastasia, the founder of Ed Astra Admissions, through a WhatsApp group for YouTube content creators, and I'm fully confident that the services that she provides will help you get into your dream business school or university in France. Anastasia, the founder of Ed Astra Admissions, is no stranger to studying in France. She came to France to study management in ESSEC, the top French business school. She then worked for Printemps, the luxury department store, and a strategy consulting firm for more than 2 years before founding Ed Astra Admissions with one goal in mind: to help students choose the right school and get admitted. Anastasia now has helped more than 300 international students get accepted to the best business schools in Europe, from which 89% has already got accepted to their target business school. So if you're thinking about applying to business schools in France, I do actually have a 10% discount code for you guys that you can use to save 10% off of your first online consultation with Anastasia herself. Thank you so much to Ed Astra Admissions for making this video happen, and let's get back to the video now. So if we talk about France, we also have to talk about the cultural adjustments that you will have to face when you come here to study. And I'm not talking about things like the gastronomy, the weather, or different French customs. That will be another video. But things such as a totally different grading system, totally different framework of homeworks and assignments, lots of group projects and group assignments, and finally, something that nobody talks about, unmotivated students. But let's start with the first one, the grading system. The French grading system was probably the biggest mind box that I had to face while studying in France. So instead of using a simple A to F or 0 to 5 grading system, the French decided to make things complicated and use a scale of 0 to 20 to rate their students. Like, just look at this. It just doesn't make any sense. To this day, whenever I get back my exam results, I'm still confused about the grade I get. 14.5. Like, what does that even mean? However, there's only one thing that you really have to keep in mind if you come to France to study, which is 10 is the passing grade. If you get anything equal or above 10, you're good. Story is finished. You don't have to worry. When it comes to homeworks and assignments, I noticed that French schools really love it when students work in groups for different projects, which is fine in theory, except that French students, well, how do I put this in a nice way, are lazy AF. I never ever heard about anyone mention this on YouTube before, but after 4 years of studying in France, I have a complaint to make. It's super hard to work together with French students in a group because they just don't like to work. Of course, I'm not saying that every single French student is lazy, but on average, I find it really hard to work together with French students in groups. Honestly, it doesn't only apply to French students, it also really applies to just French people in general. Even French people at a workplace just love, and I mean love, leaving everything to the last minute. Writing their assignments the day before the deadline. Preparing a presentation a day before the presentation. Preparing for an exam 2 hours before the exam. Guys, it's a pattern that I've been noticing for the past 4 years. And to be honest, it's slightly annoying to say the least. So if you're someone who is very diligent and hardworking and you really like to prepare everything in advance, you really want to consider how these cultural differences will impact your studying in France experience, because it's something that I wasn't expecting, but it's a thing and it's there. It's there and it's annoying. Affordability. While French tuition fees and living expenses might be still a lot less cheaper than in countries like the US or Canada or Korea, for example, France is still a relatively expensive country, especially if you want to study in a bigger city like Paris, Marseille, or Lyon. In Paris, for example, a one-bedroom apartment in the city center costs around, I would say, 900 to 1200 euros a month, without talking about how much groceries and living expenses and even just things like going to the cinema costs now in France because of inflation. It's crazy, guys. Inflation is everywhere. Long story short, France is not exactly the most budget-friendly country for foreign students. However, there are a few ways to remedy this, such as applying for financial student aid, moving to the suburbs to avoid high rent prices. This is what I did. Or just simply choosing a smaller, more budget-friendly city for your studies, such as Nantes, Rouen, Grenoble, Montpellier, or Lille. Again, Astra Admissions is more than capable of helping you find the best suited program for you based on your criteria, preferences, budget. So make sure to head over to the description box and check out their website and also their free admission guide with all the best universities and business schools in Europe. Finding English-speaking jobs. So let's say that you managed to find an English-speaking program that suits you and you also managed to find an accommodation in France that doesn't break the bank. Yay, congratulations to you! You also got used to the whole French education system and now you finished your degree, which is, wow, congrats to you. It's already a big achievement. Trust me, I know. Okay, but what now? So after getting your degree in France, you have two options. And this is if you don't want to continue your studies and get a master's degree or a PhD. Let's say you don't. So you either go back to your home country and look for a job there, or you stay in France and you look for a job and start working here in France. It all sounds really good, but the only problem with that is that, generally speaking, finding a job in France if you don't speak the language honestly can be quite a big challenge, especially if you don't have any prior work experience before, which is the case of most students. So I'm not saying that it's impossible. There are many people who did it before. I personally have many friends who work in France without having to speak a word of French. Like, they have a job where they don't have to use French. But France in general, I think we can all agree that it's just one of those countries where it's quite important to speak the language if you want to work here. So this is just another thing that you want to consider before coming to France to study. Don't think just about what you're gonna study here and what program suits you best. Also start thinking about what you're gonna do after you finish studying here. Like, are you gonna stay here after getting your degree? Are you gonna go back to your home country? Are you gonna go to another European country, for example? I personally think that's a great idea. Ask yourself these questions in order to make sure that you make the right choice. Because yeah, it's quite stressful when you finish studying in France and you don't really know what you're gonna do after. I've been there, I know, trust me. So make sure to really just plan everything correctly. Being homesick and making friends. The last thing I want to mention is the difficulty that comes with being away from your home country and the difficulty of making friends. I think studying abroad anywhere else in the world in general can be a very lonely experience. On the one hand, you get to experience a new culture, learn a new language, make international friends, which is very cool, but on the other hand, you're completely on your own in a totally foreign country, miles away from your family and friends and just everything you've known before. In the past 4 years while studying abroad in France, I often felt very lonely and just very unsupported and unstable, to be honest. If I have a problem, for example, it's really hard to find help or reach out to someone, because even if I would ask my parents at home, they don't necessarily have the knowledge because they don't live in France and they are not French. Sometimes when I'm really stressed out, I just really want to go home, but then, you know, the price of plane tickets. It doesn't work that way. It's not really an option. So if you're someone who relies a lot on your family and your friends and your home environment in general, you might want to think twice before you decide to move abroad for your studies. I mean, it's not for everyone. It's definitely not for everybody. Some people love it. Some people really don't like it and they move back to their home country after a while. It depends on you. So again, you have to see for yourself. When it comes to making friends in France, based on my experience, French people are not the easiest to befriend, to be honest. I feel like a lot of French people feel intimidated to talk to you in English because they are worried that you won't understand them because their English is not that good. So they just prefer to not to talk to you at all, or they will talk to you but you kind of have to initiate it, or you have to speak in French to them. However, it's totally not impossible to befriend French people, but you really need to kind of initiate and put yourself out there and go up to them and ask them questions and just be the one who initiates the conversations. Otherwise, it probably won't happen. Also, something that really helped me to make friends with French people is asking them about their culture and just asking them like how they do things in France, or what are their favorite French food, or if they have any recommendations for like French cities to see. So just be very curious and be very open-minded. And I hate to say this, but be extroverted. That's like a curse word these days, but yeah, you kind of have to be extroverted and putting yourself out there and asking people questions if you want to be friends with French people. So good luck to you. So if after watching this video you still want to come to France to study, I haven't discouraged you, and you need help with finding the best suited business schools for you, definitely make sure to check out Ad Astra Admissions. Please find the links below in my description box to get to know more about their services, and also make sure to use my personalized link to get 10% off your first consultation with Anastasia herself. And if you want to learn more about the pros and cons of studying in Paris, make sure to check out this video next.